Most people think taxes are something you pay to the government. But there's another tax you're paying every single month, and no one sends you a bill for it. It doesn't show up in your banking app as lifestyle inflation. It doesn't feel irresponsible. It doesn't even feel risky. It feels normal. Upgrading the apartment, leasing the slightly nicer car, saying yes to the we deserve it trip, keeping the subscriptions because, well, you use them. Kind of. It's subtle, it's socially approved, and it's quietly compounding against you. Here's the uncomfortable part. The more successful you become, the more this invisible tax increases, and most people never realize it's the very thing delaying their freedom, not their income, not the market, not their degree, not their country, their lifestyle. And if you don't understand how this tax works, it doesn't just slow you down. It locks you into a version of life that feels successful on the outside, but fragile underneath. Let's break this down properly. Because this is where most ambitious 20-somethings, especially in the US, UK, Canada, Australia, Switzerland, Norway, get caught. And yeah, this might hit a little close to home. 1. The upgrade that quietly owns you. You get a raise. Maybe it's your first real job. Maybe you moved cities. Maybe you landed that solid corporate role, decent benefits, good trajectory, respectable. And you think, I've worked hard. I can finally live a little. So you upgrade. Better neighborhood, nicer gym, higher-end groceries, new phone, maybe a car payment instead of public transport. Nothing crazy, just elevated. Totally reasonable, right? Here's the problem. Every fixed expense you add is not just a cost. It's a commitment to earn at that level forever. That upgraded apartment, it's not $2,500 a month. It's $2,500 of required income, after tax, every single month just to stand still. That car lease? It's not about the car. It's about reducing your flexibility. And flexibility is leverage. Most people don't realize this. Lifestyle inflation reduces optionality, and optionality is what creates wealth. Pause for a second. If you lost your job tomorrow, how many months could you survive without changing anything? Be honest, because if the answer is not long, you don't own your lifestyle owns you. And here's the kicker. The higher your income rises, the more dangerous this becomes, because now the invisible tax scales with you. This is where people earning $120K feel just as financially stressed as people earning $50K. Same anxiety, different zip code. That's not a money problem. That's a structure problem. And it compounds. 2. Recurring expenses are silent time thieves. Let's zoom out. Every recurring expense is not just a dollar cost. It's a time cost. If you're making $80,000 a year and your after-tax hourly rate is, say, $30-35, that $300 a monthly upgrade? That's 10 hours of your life. Every month. Forever. And because it auto-renews, you stop thinking about it. Subscriptions, higher rent, premium services, convenience, everything. You don't feel it. But you're trading future freedom for present comfort. And look, I'm not anti-comfort. I'm not saying live like a monk in Berlin sharing a flat with 5 strangers. But here's the subtle shift. Are you designing your life around freedom or around consumption? Most people think they're building wealth, but they're building a lifestyle that requires permanent income. And permanent income requirements increase risk. This is where it gets uncomfortable. Because the invisible tax isn't about being irresponsible. It's about drifting. Drifting into a cost structure that assumes, I will always earn this much or more. What happens during layoffs? Recessions? Burnout? A health issue? A shift in industry demand? Ask anyone in tech who thought the gravy train was endless. Ask anyone who bought the bigger house at peak salary. It's not dramatic. It's math. Higher recurring burn rate. Lower margin for error. And wealth? Wealth is margin. This is where most people get it wrong. They optimize for visible success, not invisible resilience. And resilience is what buys freedom. 3. Identity inflation. This one stings. Let's go deeper. Because money isn't just math. It's identity. At some point, your lifestyle becomes part of who you think you are. You're the person who lives in that building, wears those brands, travels a certain way, orders certain things without checking prices. Now imagine downsizing. Smaller apartment, less visible status, saying no to certain plans. Notice the discomfort? That's not financial. That's psychological. The invisible tax becomes hardest to reduce when your ego attaches to it. And this is where ambitious young professionals, especially in high-cost, Tier 1 cities, and feel trapped. You're surrounded by high earners. You normalize high spending. You calibrate your standards upward. And suddenly what used to feel luxurious feels basic. That's lifestyle inflation's most dangerous trick. It shifts your baseline, so you never feel ahead. You just feel average, even at 100K, even at 150K, even at 200K. And quietly you're thinking, why does this still feel tight? Because your cost structure rose in sync with your income. No gap, no compounding buffer, no serious asset accumulation, just higher throughput. This is the discomfort moment. If your income doubled tomorrow, would your investing rate double, or would your lifestyle? Don't answer quickly. This is where most smart people self-sabotage. Not because they're reckless, because they're socially conditioned, and because no one frames lifestyle as a liability. But functionally, it is, when it scales too fast. 4. The opportunity cost nobody talks about. Now here's the part that doesn't show up on Instagram. Every dollar locked into recurring lifestyle costs is a dollar that cannot compound. And compounding isn't dramatic. It's boring. It's quiet. It's mechanical. But over 10-20 years, it's savage. Let's keep this simple. An extra $1,500 per month invested consistently, instead of absorbed into lifestyle upgrades, at reasonable long-term market returns. That's not a small difference. That's the difference between working because you want to and working because you have to, between negotiating from strength and negotiating from fear, between taking a risk and clinging to stability. This is why the invisible tax is so dangerous. It doesn't hurt today. It steals options from your future self. And your future self can't text you and say, hey, I would have liked that flexibility. So you don't feel the loss. You only feel the present comfort. This is classic behavioral finance. Humans overweight immediate pleasure, underweight long-term compounding, normalize rising standards, and anchor identity to visible markers. It's not stupidity. It's wiring. But awareness changes wiring. And this is where the shift happens. The goal isn't to shrink your life. It's to design it intentionally. There's nothing wrong with earning more. Nothing wrong with upgrading. But upgrades should follow assets, not replace them. Here's the reframe. Your lifestyle should grow slower than your income. Not equal, not faster, slower. That gap, that's where wealth is born. That gap becomes investments, equity, ownership, leverage, optionality. And optionality is calm. Real calm. The kind where you're not panicking about layoffs. You're not stuck in a job you hate. You're not negotiating from desperation. You're steady because your burn rate is controlled. Your assets are growing, and your lifestyle isn't holding your future hostage. This doesn't require extreme frugality. It requires awareness. Before every major upgrade, ask, does this increase my fixed obligations, or does this increase my freedom? If it increases obligation, it should be intentional. If it increases freedom, it's probably aligned. Most people never run that filter. They just drift upward, and drifting is expensive, especially in your 20s. When compounding time is at its peak value, the invisible tax isn't visible in your 20s. It's visible in your 40s. When you realize you earned well, but own very little, that's the quiet regret, and you don't need to experience that. You just need to think structurally. Income is powerful, but structure determines whether income creates wealth or just sustains a more expensive version of the same treadmill. So here's the move. Audit your fixed costs, not emotionally, analytically. What percentage of your income is required just to exist at your current level? And if that number makes you slightly uncomfortable, good. That discomfort is awareness, and awareness is leverage. If this resonated, the next step isn't cut everything, it's understanding time. Because lifestyle inflation delays compounding, and compounding is brutally sensitive to time. That's exactly what I break down in my video on the cost of waiting one more year. If this invisible tax is the leak, that video shows you how much time that leak actually costs you. Watch that next, not because you need motivation, but because once you understand the time equation properly, you'll never look at a lifestyle upgrade the same way again. And that shift, that's where control starts.